Welcome to the Daughter Arise channel. My name is Yvonne and this channel is all about bringing you content to do with childhood sexual abuse. On this channel I share things to do with my experience of going through this childhood trauma. I also share news and other things to do with this subject in hopes of raising awareness about childhood sexual abuse. And from time to time, when I'm fortunate enough, I do interview other survivors and their supporters in hopes of raising awareness of this childhood abuse. So if this is the type of content that you're looking for, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can be notified of any new uploads. And if you do like the content, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. So in this video I just want to share some things with you that I learned along my healing journey from childhood sexual abuse. Now, I have talked about on different videos on this channel about the different things and experiences that I went through in my journey towards healing, and I have shared that it has been over 20 years that my journey took place. It had lots of different things going on during that time. I'm now at the other end of coming through that healing journey, which, as I said, was over a 20-year span, and there are things that I reflect on from time to time, things that I think about to do with that journey. Maybe you are still stuck in the depths of the horrible things that you've gone through, whether that is the memories, the nightmares, whatever it is that is just kept you in this place for a very long time, and you may be feeling a bit hopeless, like you're not going to be able to make it out the other side of what you've gone through as a child. I want to encourage you that you will make it through, and everything happens in the time and season that it's supposed to. That is a Bible scripture from Ecclesiastes 3:1 that the Lord had given me when I was still going through kind of a really roundabout journey to do with my abuse. It was just one thing after another, but that Bible scripture kept me and helped me to understand that everything happens in due time. So I just want to share with you these 5 things to encourage you that I learned from my own journey of coming through the other side of going through childhood sexual abuse. So the first thing I want to share with you is that clarity brings healing. Going through childhood sexual abuse from the age of 9 to 13 years old, I came up with lots of assumptions in my mind as to why I was going through this experience. I believe that it was because at times I was more outgoing than my brother and sister. I believed it was because I told a lie to stay off school, because I wanted to spend time with my mum. I believed because I told that lie, that is why this abuse was happening to me. There were lots of different things that I came up with in my mind as to why my abuse was happening. And bearing in mind I was growing up during the 80s, there wasn't any information out there like public adverts or anything that could alert me to the fact that what I was going through was childhood sexual abuse and that it was wrong. There were no adults that I could talk to. There was no books or anything like that that alerted me as a child to this type of abuse. So because of all those things, not having the knowledge and information, came up with in my mind false reasons why I was going through abuse. And I carried it with me through my childhood, through my teens, through my early 20s. And it was only after I had my first nervous breakdown at 22 and started to commit to the work after I came out of hospital of going to therapy, that through the education that the psychotherapist I was seeing at the time was giving me, I got to understand that nothing I could have ever said or done would have warranted me ever being sexually abused as a child. It started a journey of knowledge and information finding for me to learn about my experience as I was starting to open up to my therapist about my abuse, and having courage to talk about things that I kept hidden deep inside because of the guilt and shame. Opening up and talking to her and being educated by her and being pointed to other resources to do with it, I got clarity about my experience, because all those years I thought that what I'd gone through was my fault, and it wasn't my fault. I became comforted by the fact that I learned that no matter what I said or did or didn't do, nothing could have warranted what had happened to me. And an adult can never be responsible, a child can never be responsible for the actions of an adult. And getting that clarity and that reassurance and that information brought a lot of healing into my life. It helped me to also as well move the blame from myself back onto the perpetrator, my dad, where it belonged. So that's one of the things I've learned through my journey. From speaking to other survivors, I know it's something that they all struggle with, because when they were going through abuse as children, they again didn't have anybody around them that they could talk to, especially in the family environment. No information, no guidance or anything. So it left them to come up with all kinds of ideas about why they were to blame for their own abuse, but they weren't to blame. It's always the adult who seeks to do these things that is to blame. So clarity has definitely brought healing. The next thing I want to share with you is that you will have up and down days. During the course of my earlier journey, from about probably 16 to, I don't know, 16 to like 26 maybe, I had so many up and down days. At the beginning I had lots of down days. You know, I struggled with depression from the age of 10 years old, and then at 13 I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and depression, and I just had a roller coaster journey. Some days, you know, especially in the beginning, were really, really rough. As I started to go through the care system and come out, and then, you know, going through lots of different things that were challenging, when I did get to therapy by the time I was 22, you know, I was still suffering from a lot of low moods, depression, you know, low self-esteem, confidence and stuff. And I did do a lot of work in therapy, and some days it would feel like I would take 2 steps forward, and then other days when I had those down days it would feel like 10 steps back, and I used to get really, really discouraged. But I want you to know that, you know, you will have up and down days, and it's totally normal. It is totally normal. The journey is a continuing process of learning, growing, healing, discovering things about yourself, accepting things. There's just so many different things that make up the journey of, you know, coming out the other side of childhood sexual abuse. Up and down days are part of that, and it's okay if you have down days. It's okay if you make a mistake or take a step back, you know, as long as you keep focused on the hope you have of going forward. Keeping your eyes on the fact that even though you may have taken a step back or you're having down days, that your hope is that you will be able to have better days, more positive days, and not to dwell on the down days. They're just part of the journey. So I want to encourage you to, you know, focus on the good days, write them down and keep them somewhere to remind yourself of the progress you've made. Even in the times where you feel you've not made progress, you can always go back and look at it. The next thing I want to share with you is that the new and the unknown brings insecurity. I, for a long time, had operated from a mindset that was stuck in my past. You know, I had lived with going through childhood sexual abuse for so many years, and there was a point where it had been my life for a very long time, right from when it happened to me as a child. And the ways that I would cope with this trauma were familiar to me, they were comfortable to me. They weren't good for me, but I was familiar with them. So when I would have triggers or anything would happen, I would go back to destructive, dysfunctional ways of coping. And I knew that it wasn't good for me, but that is what I was used to. When I started going through therapy and committing to therapy properly for the first time, because, you know, I had opportunities to go into therapy when I was in care, but I was too busy dealing with being in the care system. I didn't have the mindset to deal with opening up about my abuse. That came like 4 years after I left care, 5 years I think. But when I started to go into therapy and started to deal with my issues from being abused, as I was going along and making progress, it started to occur to me that the old ways of coping and the ways of being comfortable with coping with my abuse and the dysfunction that I would engage in no longer fitted into my new journey of where I was going. I was going on this journey where I was really trying to deal with my abuse. I was really going on this journey of, facing very hard and painful things and making really good progress. So even in the times when I had a bad day and resorted back to the things that were familiar and destructive to me, I knew that it didn't feel right. So I had to find new ways of dealing with those difficult times, whether that was in relationships, with my own memories and stuff like that. So I had to use different things that fitted in with my journey, and that for me brought a lot of insecurity because I wasn't used to it. I was used to the dysfunction, but after a while of making mistakes, taking a step back, going forward, I started to realise that doing these new and different things, these strategies and different things that were helping me to cope with my abuse, it was actually good for me. After a long period of doing them, I no longer started then to go back to those old destructive ways. So when you're on this journey of trying to heal from your abuse, it's totally normal again to feel insecure about when new things are suggested to you, maybe by a therapist or new things that you come across. It's totally normal to feel insecure when you've been used to using old strategies of coping. So insecurity is a part of the journey. You need to embrace it, go forward, do new and different things until you find something that feels okay for you, that can replace the things that you're used to. Another thing I want to say to you is to take each day as it comes. No 2 days are the same. One day you might feel like you're making lots of progress and things are going in the right direction. Other days, you might feel that you're stuck and you haven't made progress at all. Try not to look too future forward. That's my advice to you. Sometimes I felt that because I felt so behind in life, because I spent so many years dealing with my trauma, I felt that I had to be future thinking all the time, looking forward to try and grab as much time back as possible, trying to find ways to do that. But all it did was kind of put more pressure on me. And when I couldn't reach certain goals, I used to get very discouraged. I had to learn to just take one day at a time and deal with today and tomorrow, and that is what I'm advising you to do. Maybe you feel like you should have been healed already, you should have been over this already, what's happened to you in your childhood, but everything is a process and processes take time. I don't know what I would have done actually if it wasn't for God as well, giving me the kind of compassion and love that I couldn't give myself, because I was always quite self-condemning by nature, and I felt, really that I should be a lot further along in my life. But, the Lord Jesus just really helped me through showing me love, compassion and grace that no one showed me, and that really helped me to know that, He will give me enough for today, and He will be with me there in tomorrow to give me what I need tomorrow. So just take each day as it comes, and you'll find grace in each day. Two other things I want to share with you. The biggest threat to your progress will be you. I'm going to say this from my experience. I know this to be true. I had been used to a lot of dysfunction for a lot of years in my life. And because I'd been used to so much trauma and grief and negativity, sometimes when I was going forward in my life, I would self-sabotage my progress because I didn't feel that I was worthy enough, that I was good enough, that I deserved it. It's funny how going through childhood sexual abuse will make you feel like you don't deserve the very best in life, the very good things life have to offer. A lot of the time with survivors, and I've been like this myself, we end up sometimes settling for things that we don't deserve, the very small breadcrumbs of life. But that is not what God has planned for your life. Even though you may feel that you don't deserve the progress or the good things that life has to offer you, you know, God has the very best for you in store. And I found that, you know, I was the only one who was sabotaging my own progress. Whether that was allowing people to, you know, trigger me or bring me down, or, you know, just doing dysfunctional things, I realised that I was the one that was sabotaging my own self. And I had to get to a stage through a lot of hard work, through therapy, of accepting and believing that I deserve the very best in life, you know. And it was a journey to get there, but I realised that if I was going to self-sabotage myself continuously, it would only set me back. And I didn't want to feed in any more as well to that negative script that was left behind within me from being abused. So you have to be aware of, if you have them, any self-sabotaging acts that you may do against yourself. And you have to realise what is triggering that. When you feel like you want to self-sabotage, you know, you have to realise maybe you need support to do that, but you have to kind of be aware of what it is that's going to trigger you to go back to that. You actually deserve more than you've had. You've not had the best childhood. You've had horrible things happen to you. You've had people betray and humiliate you. You may have not been believed. You've had to go through so much. So you deserve to try and give yourself a chance to have the best. The next thing I want to share with you is to be you. To be you means to accept you where you are now. It's horrible when you have gone through abuse and you constantly reject yourself, and I can understand it because that's what I did for a long time. I didn't like who I was for a long time because of my abuse. I rejected myself for a long time, and in rejecting myself, you know, how could I have ever given myself a chance? I had to get to a stage, you know, through therapy, through my faith in God, which really helped me to give myself a chance to support myself in just being me. That means accepting me how I was, with my dysfunction, my mistakes, with the good bits, the bad bits. I had to learn to just be me. And when I started to learn to just be me and accept me where I was, no matter the circumstances, then I was able to start making those changes, because, you know, those changes were a natural part of the journey. I had to start where I was, in being me where I was, before I could then go on and make changes within myself. And I totally get it. When you've gone through abuse, you know, I'm just saying here because this is something a lot of survivors have said to me, you know, they feel like they cannot accept themselves. They really struggle with it. I struggled with it. But you have to accept yourself where you are now in order to make the changes that you want to see in yourself as you go further down into your journey. Another thing I want to say as well, a lot of people might not like you or the way you are at this point. Maybe they don't have the compassion and the empathy to understand that the version of you that is showing up now is because of your abuse. A lot of people are very fickle when it comes to people. They want to accept you on their terms, how they want you to be. But they don't want to accept you in your pain, in you trying to figure out who you are. But even with people being like that towards you, you must still be you. If they don't like it, they can leave. You are on your journey and they need to respect that. So be you in the good and the bad times, whether you make mistakes, whether you make progress, whether there are days that you like yourself, whether there are days you're not. You know, be you and accept you, and that will help you on your journey. You'll figure it out in time. The biggest thing I just feel that survivors need as they go through their journey is giving themselves grace and just having patience. No two people's journeys are the same. So that is it for this video. I hope you found it helpful. Until the next one, take care.